Welcome to a night of spine-chilling tales. Are you brave enough to delve into the dark corners of reality where fear lurks around every corner? Tonight we dive into three true scary stories that will make you think twice about being alone on a rainy night. These are the kinds of stories that stay with you long after the lights are out, the kind that make you question what's real and what's lurking just beyond the veil of darkness. So lock your doors, turn up the volume, and prepare yourself, because things are about to get terrifying. The rain was relentless, a constant drumming against the old warped wood of the cabin. Each gust of wind seemed to shake the very foundation, but I told myself it was just the storm. I told myself that about the shadows too, the ones that seemed to dance in the flickering lamplight. Just the wind, I muttered, trying to convince myself as I stoked the fireplace, the flames offering little comfort against the encroaching darkness beyond the windows. I was alone, miles from the nearest town, seeking solace in this secluded cabin, nestled deep in the woods. It was supposed to be a peaceful retreat, a chance to escape the city's clamor. Now, with every howl of the wind, every creak of the floorboards beneath my feet, peace felt a world away. As the night deepened, so did the unease. It started subtly, a book misplaced on the shelf, a floorboard groaning when it shouldn't, easy to dismiss, to rationalize away with tired, overactive nerves. But then the whispers started, faint at first, like the rustling of leaves just beyond the cabin walls. But slowly they grew louder, more insistent, morphing into something resembling words. Words I couldn't quite make out, but their tone, their intent, chilled me to the bone. Sleep was impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, the whispers intensified, swirling around me like the wind. Images flashed behind my eyelids, fleeting and indistinct, but filled with a palpable sense of dread. Then came the knocking, 3 sharp raps on the front door, echoing through the silent cabin. My heart pounded against my ribs, my breath catching in my throat. Who could be out there in the middle of the night in this storm? The knocking came again, more insistent this time. Curiosity, or perhaps a morbid fascination, overcame my fear. Against my better judgment, I crept toward the door, each step heavy with apprehension. With a deep breath, I reached for the doorknob, the cold metal biting into my palm. As I slowly pulled the door open, the wind howled in triumph, whipping rain and shadows into the cabin. The porch was empty. I scanned the darkness, searching for any sign of life, but there was nothing. Just the relentless rain and the wind, now a deafening roar in my ears. I closed the door quickly, the flimsy lock doing little to ease the tremor that had taken hold of me. I stumbled back to the fireplace, the events of the past few hours replaying in my mind. The whispers, the knocking, the emptiness beyond the door. It was all wrong, all deeply unsettling. Desperate for some semblance of normalcy, I decided to build a fire, hoping the flames would chase away the shadows and the fear that clung to me like a second skin. But as I reached for the log pile, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. A single muddy footprint, distinctly human, marred the otherwise pristine wooden floor in front of the fireplace. A footprint that hadn't been there before. The old highway stretched out before me, a ribbon of asphalt cutting through the desolate landscape. Rain lashed against my windshield, blurring the world beyond into an impressionistic smear of greys and blacks. My headlights cut through the gloom, illuminating the empty road ahead. It was late, well past midnight, and I was driving home from a business trip gone wrong. Exhaustion tugged at me, but the rhythmic swish of the wipers and the low hum of the engine kept me going. That's when I saw her. A lone figure standing by the side of the road, illuminated by the stark white glare of my headlights. She was young, maybe in her early 20s, with long dark hair plastered to her face by the rain. She wore a white dress, its purity a stark contrast to the grime of the highway. Guilt pricked at me. I should keep driving. It wasn't safe to pick up hitchhikers, especially not in this weather, not in this desolate stretch of road. But something about her vulnerability, the way she stood there shivering in the downpour, made me pull over. As I rolled down the window, the first thing that struck me was the silence. The relentless drumming of the rain seemed to cease the moment she stepped into the car. She didn't speak, didn't even offer a nod of thanks, just slid into the passenger seat, her eyes fixed on some distant point beyond the windshield. "Where are you headed?" I asked, my voice a nervous tremor in the heavy silence. She didn't answer, didn't even acknowledge my presence. It was as if she hadn't heard me at all. I tried again, my unease growing with every passing mile. "Do you live nearby? Which way should I—" "Turn left here," she finally spoke, her voice a soft whisper that seemed to emanate from the very air itself. It was cold, devoid of any warmth or inflection. The road she directed me to was little more than a dirt track, barely visible in the downpour. "Are you sure?" I asked, my doubt growing with each bump and jolt of the car. "There's nothing down here." "Just drive," she whispered, her gaze never leaving the windshield. The further we drove, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. The air grew thick, heavy, making it difficult to breathe. A strange metallic tang filled my nostrils, and the temperature inside the car plummeted despite the heater blasting at full force. I noticed then, too, that she hadn't blinked, not once. Her eyes, wide and unseeing, stared straight ahead, reflecting the faint glow of the dashboard like two polished stones. We reached a clearing, the road ending abruptly at the edge of the dark and silent wood. The rain had stopped, replaced by an unnatural stillness that was somehow more unnerving. "This is it," she whispered, her voice barely audible now. As I turned to face her to demand an explanation, the passenger seat was empty. I scrambled out of the car, heart pounding, and frantically scanned the deserted clearing. There was no sign of her, no footprints in the damp earth, no indication of which way she could have gone. She was just gone. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, the silence pressing upon me, the image of her vacant eyes seared into my mind. Then, with a shiver of pure terror, I turned and ran back to my car, fleeing the clearing and the unsettling silence it held. Chapter 3. The Whispering Woods. The woods had always called to me, a symphony of rustling leaves and birdsong, but tonight the usual symphony was replaced by an unnerving silence. The air hung heavy, thick with an almost palpable dread, and the trees loomed like skeletal sentinels against the backdrop of the dying light. I was lost, turned around by a series of paths I hadn't meant to take. The sun, a pale ghost behind the thickening canopy, offered little comfort. It started subtly, a whisper carried on the breeze, too faint to decipher. I stopped, holding my breath, listening for any repetition, but the only sound was the distant caw of a crow. I continued on, my pace quickening, a knot of unease tightening in my stomach. The deeper I ventured, the more insistent the whispers became. They seemed to emanate from the very trees themselves, a chorus of hushed voices swirling around me. They spoke of things I couldn't understand, words laced with an ancient sorrow, a chilling despair. Panic welled up inside me, threatening to overwhelm my senses. I broke into a run, branches whipping at my face, the whispers growing louder, more insistent, as if urging me forward. The woods grew darker, the path ahead barely visible in the fading light. I stumbled over exposed roots, my breath catching in my throat, the whispers a constant, chilling presence at my back. Then through the tangle of branches I saw it, a clearing bathed in an ethereal moonlight that seemed to pierce the dense canopy above. In the center stood a solitary figure, robed in white, its back to me. The whispers ceased. A strange sense of calm washed over me, replacing the fear that had been my constant companion for the past hour. Curiosity outweighed any lingering apprehension, and I found myself drawn towards the figure. As I approached, the figure slowly turned, and I gasped. Its face, if it could be called that, was a mask of smooth, featureless porcelain. Two empty sockets stared back at me, devoid of any recognition, any emotion. The moment our eyes met, the whispers returned, their tone shifting from sorrowful to something more sinister, more knowing. They spoke of secrets buried deep within the earth, of things best left undisturbed. Terror, raw and primal, surged through me. I stumbled back, my foot catching on a root. I fell, my eyes fixed on the figure, its blank gaze burning into me. Scrambling to my feet, I didn't dare take my eyes off the figure as I backed away, my heart pounding against my ribs. Then, as quickly as it appeared, the clearing vanished. I found myself standing on the familiar path, the trees around me silent, the air still. The only sound was the frantic thump of my own blood rushing in my ears. I didn't look back, didn't stop running until I burst out of the woods, gasping for breath, the setting sun a welcome sight. I never returned to those woods. The whispers, the figure in the clearing remained seared into my memory, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurks just beyond the familiar. Thank you for joining us on this eerie journey into the heart of darkness. We've explored the shadowy corners of reality where fear takes on a life of its own. Remember these tales. Let them serve as a reminder that even in the safety of our homes, the unknown whispers just beyond our perception. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more spine-tingling tales. Stay safe. And remember, sometimes the scariest things are the ones we can't see.